Hey everybody, and welcome back once again to another altered video. Doing something a little bit different because of the marketplace. We've got the opportunity, but we are going to be building a deck completely from scratch. And if we're missing any of the cards, we'll buy them on the marketplace. It's a very easy process, but we'll show you how to do it. And this will take you through how I build my decks right at the start. We'll take it for our regular 3 games, see what works, see what doesn't, but we'll start with the most important thing. We're going to have to try and figure out what a good deck name is. Alright, we're going to be building something Muna today because I haven't showcased anything for this. And we'll probably do something similar with an Axiom list at some point in the future, hopefully the near future. But who are we going to choose as our hero? Taja and Nora is the most commonly seen Muna hero. So maybe we'll go for something a little bit different. Rin Orchid or Arjun and Spike. I know in paper, I've got a few of the Rin and Orchid promos, so that's quite appealing. But I think we'll go with Arjun and Spike, and we'll choose a name. Spike Feeder. Any MTG fans out there will know what that card is. And that seems like a good place to start. There's the most important step done. We've chosen our hero. Alrighty, we've got all our options. We'll start with what's in the collection. But we always start with our uniques. So let's have a quick look through here. So Arjun and Spike only triggers on characters with hand cost 3 or less, or you can only give anchored to characters with hand cost 3 or less. So we are going to immediately try and wipe out anything that has 3 or more than 3. Sorry. I think this Yeti is a good idea, and the Ortis Liaison. We'll go over those quickly. So basically, he just keeps himself around for a turn, but he can boost up to 2 target characters if you've got a big enough board. Always nice to use that whenever another character joins your expeditions. Ortis Liaison's one is conditional, so if she's in green, she can boost stuff around. So that'll be good for maybe 1 turn. And it'll be very dependent on, the randomization of those expeditions, whether she's good after that. But we'll figure that out. All right, there's 2 of them, and then our third option. What have we got here? We can either play an aloe vera that can't give it itself anchored, but it does reduce the cost and put something into the reserve, which we do like for Arjun and Spike. We've got our 2 Capilias here. We discard a card from your reserve if you do. Target character gets anchored. That can give something bigger than 3 anchored, but we'll see how we go when building the deck. And then this one buffs itself for a little bit of extra mana as well. Of those 3 options, I'm probably interested in the Capilia that gives anchored the most. So we'll start with that, and there's our 3 chosen uniques. So we'll get rid of that filter, go down to the rare, and we'll see if we can find 15 rares to add to the deck. What I do first off is I look at anything that would be interesting to me, and just add one of those to the list, and then we see how many we end up with. So the card counts for each rarity for a minimum number 39 card deck are 21, 15, and 3. So you're looking for 5 copies, 5 different types of rares. Obviously, you can reduce the count on some of those to add a few more in. And 21 commons. So 7 commons, 5 rares, 3 separate uniques. I usually jump over the top of that a little bit, so we maybe bump it up to 8 or 10 and then cut it back from there. But yeah, the Eclut will be very good with at least 2 of our uniques. Jack Frost looks good as well. I like the idea of Repotter Otter to keep our reserve full as well. So we'll keep going there. Lost in the Woods we'll think about as well. Audits Liaison for the charge effects. Obviously, if you're trying to keep a bunch of stuff around, that'll be good, and you can swing an expedition like that. But I think we'll skip it for now because we've got a lot of options. I like the idea of... I don't like the idea of Tiny Gin, although I do have an affinity for that card in general. But obviously if we're trying to give stuff anchored, it's not going to leave the expedition, so it's a little bit questionable, despite the fact that it'll get free boosts when it enters from our uniques. Potentially free boosts, I should say. Esmeralda for the resupply, to keep our cards in reserve as well. I do like that. Think about Cloth Cocoon as well. Muna Caregiver. Spindle Harvesters. Is that a good idea? If I have 2 or more boosts, resupply. We'll think about that one. Inari should be a slam dunk. Chicana, Aloe Vera are both very good. So this is if we can keep cycling ways to give this anchored, might be good. And obviously Aloe Vera, we've seen that in our pink decks. Parvati can't get anchored off of Arjun and Spike, but it can give other things anchored, so we'll think about it. Just goes into the maybe board for now. Meditation training might be a slam dunk as well. We'll think about Harvest. If we're keeping stuff around, a Quetzalcoatl might be good. Similar to the Warrawoon Max style, but obviously anchored is better than asleep. Think about Kokoba as well. And then Sneezer Shrooms. Alright, so we've gone a bit overboard here. We've gone up to 17 one-ofs. We'll have to think about what it is that we can cut. Some pretty easy ones. Kokoba was probably a bit adventurous. Aloe Vera we can cut down to the common version because we're going to have ways to give it anchored with our hero. Parvati as well. Let's see, Jack Frost can potentially go down to common too. The Quetzalcoatl might be too cute. Where are we now? We've got 12, so 7 more cuts. Cloth Cocoon, I would say, had Trial by Frost not come out. Obviously, we've only got 1 copy as well. We can buy more. But had Trial by Frost come out, and I think it's called Lost in the Woods, is another option for getting rid of permanents. So we'll drop that one as well. Oh no, there we go, Lost in the Woods, we did have it. This can drop down to common as well. We don't want our opponents drawing cards when we get rid of their stuff. Okay, we've got 9. Let's think about one more. Esmeralda might be good. Mood of Caregiver doesn't give you any benefit except for the added stats at rare, so maybe we'll look at that one as a common too. Alright, what does this look like if we start fleshing it out? 3 Spindle Harvesters I think are very good. We'll try 3 Inaris, 3 Dracanas. We've only got 2 copies of Aklut. I don't think we need the 3rd one. Got 15. Actually, we don't have a lot of ways to give Spindle Harvesters boost outside of our 2 uniques. So I actually think we drop that one. Obviously that just means we're going to have the uniques in hand for the Spindle Harvesters to be good. So if we get rid of the Esmeralda, We flesh it out. 2 meditation training, 2 repotter otter. I think that's better. So if we can play in a way that gets the Inari anchored, we'll get the draw a card here, but we've got additional ways to put stuff in reserve to cycle through more of our deck with the otter. And obviously given that otter anchored will actually be pretty good if we can stay out of green. So there you go, we've got our 15 rares, and then we go through the same process with the commons. This one, so obviously we're looking to get up to 7 sets of 3 ofs. Okay, we've got 1 warning here for the Dracana, so we don't own those. But let's start once again. Jack Frost. Yeti might be good. Obviously it only sticks around for 1 turn instead of the permanent landmark, but it is similar in function to... what's it called? The Monolith Bastion in Orders. We'll think about that one. Okay, we talked about Lost in the Woods. Floral Tent will be a banger. We talked about Moona Druid. So, Nari, Daughter of Yggdrasil, we don't like that. Moona Druid as well for ways to give things anchored if we can get it into the reserve. We're playing 3 copies of the rare Dracana. So we'll play some Aloe Veras as well. Hydrocana might be an option as well as a late game thing, obviously if our opponents can't get rid of it. That might be good. We might be able to fiddle with the rares if we put common meditation trainings in the deck. We'll think about harvest as well. So how many commons do we have here? We've got 10. Alright, we can work with that. Alright, the last decision I'm going to make is about these meditation trainings. Lost in the Woods as permanent removal, but also conditional discard of creatures will be good. Resupply is obviously very good in this, and we can sort of just fit this into our curve at 1, and as protection for our creatures. We'll think about a second harvest for now. Moona Caregiver and, or is it Moona Druid will be good with our Repotter Otters and all of our instances of resupply. I think a second Jack Frost will be good as well. Maybe not the full 3, just in case we're playing against opponents who have don't play out of reserve or they keep it relatively clean. I don't like Yeti, even though we do want our unique Yeti to have friends. Where are we up to? 19. We need more instances of resupply. So what does this look like? That's our full 21. We've got 1 copy of meditation training plus the 2 at rare. We'll see if we can... what can we buff up out of our rares? We could play another copy of Otter and Aklut and just play the common meditation trainings. I like Harvest. Let's count how many instances of resupply and draw we have in the deck. So 3 resupplies plus 2 is 5 plus 3 is 8. Our 3 Inaris are additional card draw. Plus another 2. So that's 10. Is that enough? That doesn't feel like enough. 2 instances of asleep. I don't think we're going to get enough use out of our reserve ability, so we're going to go down. We'll play 3 copies of meditation training here, which means we have to cut 2 commons, increase our rare, so we could look at putting a 2 of a different rare in there. Let's get rid of the Hydrocena. Hydrocena, Hydrocana. I don't know, I've jumped between the two. I'm a little bit tired. And then we need to cut 1 more common and put 2 more rares in. So what we'll be doing is we'll dive back into that. Yeah, I think if this is in reserve, I'd rather pay the extra mana. Alright, we'll go down to 2 meditation trainings and just think about how good that card is, or how good that card would be if we had it in hand. Because we can always bump that one up, but we're going to see them at some point. The only question will be if we resupply them into reserve. And last thing we'll do, get rid of this, go back into our rares. What are we thinking? Are there any characters we have with permanent effects? Alright, go back to the filter, summon cost. Only look at 3 drops or less, and we'll see what we can find. That might be a good shout. Alright, let's try 2 Persephones. Drop those in there. Our deck list isn't legal because we are missing a copy of this little fella here. There you go. So once you've made up your list, you can actually see how many copies of each card you own, and then you can just buy them straight on the deck building list. And there you go. This should update in a second. We'll double check. Legal. Happy days. There you go, not that long a process to build a deck. Yeah, building it up and then cutting it down gives you kind of just like the full, list of options available to you rather than tunnel visioning on certain things. Lets you play going the one-offs, just lets you see everything in one place, and then you sort of go from there. Keeps it quick, keeps it fairly streamlined. Obviously there are some cards in the card pool that are just not going to be good. But the ones that I'm thinking of here, I don't know. We'll see how often these Inaris turn up and either eat removal or we don't have a way to give them anchored. Basically, whenever those are in hand, we're going to try and figure out a way to get something into the reserve for the next turn. So that's more of a 2-turn play if we're not playing too much out of reserve, but we are playing a lot of resupply as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Plus 2 ways to draw a card and put something into reserve. So 10 ways to get cards in there. So hopefully we're always going to be sending stuff into reserve so we can have access to our hero ability, because obviously no point playing the hero if you don't trigger that. We'll be trying to keep around some other copies as well. The 2 meditation trainings, the 3 Muna Druids, and the 3 Muna Caregivers, all are ways to give something anchored, either from hand or from the reserve with respect to the creatures. And we'll see how we go. These uniques might be a little bit sus, but we will deal with it. Alright, see you in a little bit. On to game 1. Thanks. Alright everyone, here we are, game 1 with our Arjun and Spike deck, newly created. Let's see how it goes. You'll be learning with me. Let's hit confirm. We're up against a Muna Mirror matchup against Rin and Orchid. Alright, let's see how we go. Okay, that's probably too many Muna caregivers, but we'll keep one. Lost in the Woods and Occult aren't for this part of the game, so we'll try and go with this. See what our opponent wants to get done. A Bountiful Meadow. Alright. Playing our Muna caregiver gives up here, so I guess we'll play the Persephone. They'll just match against it. Pass the turn. We did look at this card in the deck construction. Mostly decided against it. So we'll see how this goes. Alright. We have access to some draw. We could play Persephone and Sneeze the Shroom this turn, or Inari and Caregiver. If we gave the Inari anchored, we could keep it around for another turn after that as well. The Sneeze the Shroom gives itself anchored, so we don't need to get rid of the Persephone to do that. However, it means we're going to try and... It's going to be a little bit weird for us to give it anchored next turn with the Caregiver. So what I think we'll do is we'll discard the Persephone. Give our Inari anchored. And we'll have the Muna Caregiver to consider as well. Alright, what does this guy do? At noon gains 2 boosts. From reserve something gets a boost. That's alright. I think we'll play the Caregiver out anyway. Doesn't do much. It's good from our opponent. And we'll pass the turn. Notably, the Lost in the Woods would have hit our aloe vera friend here. Oh, that's an interesting development. Oops, sorry about that. Does not hit our opponent's aloe vera just yet. Alright. So we'll discard our opponent's Demeter. We'll give our Inari anchored, so we can win there. Draw another card next turn. And we'll play the Sneeze Shroom on the other side as well, put a little bit of pressure there next turn. It's nice to see one of our uniques turn up, so he might be able to gain a sleep, keep himself around. If we draw another creature, at least we'll be able to boost some things as well. Oh, that's so close to being amazing. We could play both of our uniques here. Alright, I guess we'll do it. We don't have much choice. We do draw an extra card, see what we get there. Moon Druid. Now, do we want to sleep the Yeti? I think we do, because it'll take a bit of pressure. It'll take a bit of pressure off of us to keep stuff out of our reserve here. Alright, how does this math out as well now? So it'll be an extra... So we'll target the... Sneeze a Shroom and the Yeti. How does that look? That takes us to 4/4/5 this turn. Keeps the booster around for next turn as well. We are going to discard the Mooner Druid 2. And what do we wish to keep around? The Sneezer Shroom's going to be a 5/5/5 up against the Hydrocena here next turn. So it's going to go 8/8/8, sorry, 4/4/4. Would go to 5/5/5. We'll put it on the Yeti. He's cute. Deserves it. We've taken a pretty substantial lead there. That was a big turn. I really like how that worked out. Oh, they get the first run at it though. That's disappointing. I think we have to get rid of the Harvest here. We've got a couple of things in reserve already. Hydrocena gains a boost, but they get the first shot at it. If they play the Demeter... Okay, that's reasonable. They can't play the Aloe Vera anyway. It's disappointing that all of our characters actually are very weak in green. Alright. Everything good here starts with the liaison. Give a boost to her. A boost to the Shroom. Can we get there, is the question. If we add a 1 into here, 2, 3... So we'll give boost to these guys. If they don't play anything, we actually get there. We'll exhaust the aloe vera. Gain 2 boost on 2 of our things. And we will surpass our opponent there. Alrighty. Got one there right under the looming threat of 2 eternal creatures. Bye bye, Mr. Shroom. Congratulations to us there. We're going to look back at this just for a second though. So functionally this Demeter would have survived until she'd advanced to here because we were in green the whole time. Now if our opponent had been advancing on the other side as well, they wouldn't have had to get rid of either of these creatures. So we were actually on the cusp of being overwhelmed by just sheer stats there. So I'm very thankful that we got out from under that one. Alright, deck works at the very least. Let's see how we go with game 2. Alrighty, welcome back. Game 2. Had a good one to start there with Arjun and Spike. Let's see how we go against this guy. We're playing first. And it's another Rin Orchid. Alright, probably going to have to do another video with this one after it's run out. Just so we get a bit of variety in there. Alright, this is a very diverse hand. Got a lot of options here for what 3 we could take and what 3 we put into the mana zone. We're playing first. We've only got 3 drops and 2 drops, so we're going to be playing 1 card no matter what. I do like the idea of playing the aloe vera out turn 2. And if we were to do that, we'd have to keep the Moona Druid as a way to give it anchored. And then our other option will be the meditation training in that spot as well. The Sneezer Shroom keeps stuff around, gives us a bit of choice turn 2 on what we want to keep around as well. So I think we'll get rid of the Jack Frost here. Persephone would be good to try and force a 1-for-1 on turn 1, but it's probably worse off after that. So I think we'll get rid of that one. And then what do we keep around? Do we keep the meditation training or the Moona Druid? I think we keep the meditation training around. This doesn't use all of our mana on turn 2. So we'll have to hope that we draw a 1-drop or something like that. Keelon Elemental. Alright. Put a card from your hand in reserve from reserve. If you control 3 or more characters, something gains sleep and you can give it 2 boost. So that's here just for the stats this early on. The odds of our opponent having 3 creatures turn 2 to give something sleep is quite low. Opponent draws a card, puts something in reserve. We'll have to see what that is. Lost in the Woods. Alright, interesting. Okay. Our opponent will be playing first. Their Keelon Elemental can really do a lot of work stopping us from advancing on the companion side. Do we keep the Lost in the Woods? I actually like the idea of having 2 aloe veras here in order to cycle through a lot more of our deck. But I am a massive sucker for keeping our options open. Lost in the Woods isn't going to be good this turn. good later on. Alright, our opponent wants to get a dragon in quite a few turns. We unfortunately have to give up something if we want to take a double advance here. So we could double advance, or we could keep the aloe vera around. Okay, we can't double advance. I'm stupid. Never mind. We're just going to use aloe vera support ability. Sorry, Munidruid support ability on the aloe vera and pass. And the reason we're doing that is because we can see that we're advancing into blue here. So we're maximizing the stats that we have on that side. We're getting a couple of creatures. What do we discard to mana? The Eclut's going to be really good with the Yeti later on. We're ahead on tempo. We're one expedition ahead of where our opponent is. Got a meditation training. Alright, how does this look? I think we play... we'll give the Yeti a sleep because we forgot to use Arjun and Spike's ability with the meditation training. Truly unfortunate. Our opponent will advance here. We could have actually contested on this side if we'd given the Yeti anchored instead of asleep here. So that's a small bleed. We'll have to see if that punishes us. Obviously we'd still be ahead, but we'd be even further ahead, which is kind of what we want. It would be in a really good spot, but that's why we learn. You know, this is only the second game I've played with this deck, so please don't blame me too much. Alright, our opponent plays out a Mowgli. Okay, I do like the idea of keeping the Eclut around. Harvest is probably not super necessary considering we have 2 cards in reserve already and we get another aloe vera. Is our opponent just going to fire off the Lost in the Woods on our Yeti? That is the question. Alright, they play a Mowgli. Okay, so we could play aloe vera plus a Nari here. I think what we'll do is we'll activate Arjun and Spike, get rid of one of our meditation trainings. We don't need 2 of those, we barely need 1. We'll contest our opponent's Mowgli here. But we're not going to give the Inari a boost, because if they want to use Lost in the Woods on it and get rid of our card advantage next turn, okay. If we had an extra mana, we could have played the Eclut and exhausted the Lost in the Woods. I think what we want to do here I think we want to keep the Yeti around. We'll see what our opponent wants to do then. Because they can Lost in the Woods it, send it to the bin, but then they lose on the other side. Or do they want to advance? The Inari. Good choice. This Yeti has when another character joins your expeditions. I'm wondering if there's any way for us to take advantage of that with, say, Ordis recruits or any other effects like that, something that creates tokens. Alright, it's a pretty open and shut case. We'll get rid of one of our aloe veras. Inari will be better if it can stick around, and it's cheaper for more stats. What do we want to get rid of here? Let's see. Let's kind of math this out. We could, in theory, get the Eclut out. So I think what we want to do, send that to the bin. The harvest would have actually been quite good value there, getting something to anchor into the bin. Alright, what do we want to keep around? I think given that our opponent has shown the magic beans, and they can get the Mowgli out, we actually want send the aloe vera to the bin. Play the Inari. Still got 5 mana to get some value out of Eclut and Muna Caregiver. Reasonable. We shall play the Eclut on this side. Give it and our Inari a boost. When it gains a boost, we'll exhaust their magic beans for a turn. We're actually winning on both sides, which is nice to see, but very far behind on mana. Finally, the Muna Caregiver doesn't do much for us, considering we're not actually in brown on either side. But what we're going to do, it doesn't matter which side we play, it's useless on either. We'll give 2 things a boost. So we'll give the Eclut a boost so we can exhaust the physical training. We'll give the Caregiver a boost. Ah, that was foolish. We should have given the Inari the boost anyway. We'll exhaust the physical training, but we would have kept an extra boost around for next turn if they didn't remove it. Lost in the Woods, they have it anyway. That's fine. Bye-bye, Inari. We'll pass the turn. Okay. That bleed on turn 2, I believe, is coming to bite us in the tush here a little bit. I think we'll get rid of the Yeti here. I do like the idea of keeping Eclut around. Send the physical training. We get a chance to play. Five, 6, 7, 8. If we get rid of the floral tent, And costs 3 or less. So unfortunately we can't anchor the Euclid here. Does, however, manage to gain a boost. This may not be the best for us. Another Magic Beans, alright. Oh well, our opponent had to have it, I guess. This doesn't really matter, whatever way we do it. It's just the Capellia getting anchored. Our opponent's tech with the Icebound Tiger is interesting here. 3 trial counters for characters in green. We'll give up a double advance here. We would have at least been contesting. And now we're behind. Behind on cards, behind on We do have the Capellia on the field though. It's just in a really unfortunate spot. Alright. This game texture would be very different had we advanced one further on the the left hand side, sorry, so these are not the cards that we wanted to see this late in the game. So I think that's probably us done, but that's alright. We gave it a hot go. Even with this, even had we been one expedition forward and contesting on both sides, our stats are pretty miserable, so that's okay. We're allowed to lose though. 1-1 against Rin and Orchid, 0-0 against the rest of the field. There you go. Alright, we'll pass the turn. Our opponent probably has something else to play. Yeah, that'll do it. Alright, good game to our opponent. Well done there. We'll let him play it out. It's well deserved. There we go, GG's. I forgot about that Capellia trigger. Surprised it made us play it out. Alright, we're good there. On to game 3. Alrighty, welcome back. 1-1 with our new Spike Feeder deck. Having fun with it. Definitely not my wheelhouse, so I don't know what I'm doing a lot of the time, but we finally have a different hero to play against. Sebash and Mamo. Alright, so they're going to be able to put a lot of extra stats on the board than us. Just with their hero ability. Eclipse too early. I like the resupply to be able to give something anchored. Now the question is, they're going to be putting a lot of stuff in reserve, so Jack Frost actually might be useful here. I would like to keep the Dracana and the Capellia around. However, I think we need to contest on stats. And Shroom doesn't do that early on. Floral Tent will be good turn 1. However, two of our creatures actually give themselves anchored. So we're going to be playing to a meditation training or resupplying something that gives us anchored for turn 2 with the Floral Tent to keep one of these guys around and continue boosting up. think we'll keep the Jack Frost and hope that it does something good here instead of the Sneezer Shroom with its stats around. Now depending what our opponent does, we can either Jack Frost plus Floral Tent turn 1. Frozen Delivery. They resupply. So I think what we do is we Jack Frost turn 1. Make them play the Haven next turn if they want it. And they're going to have to get rid of something. They pass. We're going to take the free resupply and keep the Floral Tent around for next turn. We got a Persephone. Alright, that keeps everything that we want on the field. I'll add the Floral Tent. We don't have to get rid of anything. Neither does our opponent. Lost in the Woods might be interesting to us, but so is the Mooner Druid. I think we get rid of the Druid here. The common version of Jack Frost only exhausts from hand, so we can't do anything about that. Our opponent decides against making a 2/2/2 Brass Bug. I think that's good for us. And what we'll do is we'll play Dracana on this side so it gets the protection from the Floral Tent. Foundry Mechanic. Okay, our opponent wants to contest on this side. What does that mean for us? Not much of anything. So we're just going to have to let our opponent do as they wish. They resupply. Next permanent you play this afternoon cost 1. Do they have any 1-drop permanents in their deck? Okay, so they're cycling a lot of cards. I'll give our Dracana Fleeting. I like the resupply from the Floral Tent more than the stats from the Jack Frost, considering it's understated for its value. I still have high hopes for this Lost in the Woods. I think we're going to get rid of the Harvest here. We have access to a resupply from the Floral Tent anyway. We are going to have to pull off a bit of a high roll to keep the Dracana around this turn. And our opponent is very, very strongly deliberating on what they are. I think we get rid of the Harvest here. We got options. Okay, this is actually a really cool deck from our opponent. Cycling their cards back into hand that they put into reserve with their hero's ability. They get to go first. might be able to force. We'll get rid of the floral tent. We might be able to force a 2-for-1 here. We do lose the Dracaena as a result though. I'm going to play a technical boots. When my expedition moves forward, target character in my expedition loses fleeting. Okay, this seems like a good time to use our Lost in the Woods. We'll discard the Bravos Tracer. Now our opponent has 2 mana, so we might be likely to see them drop something in their companion zone to try and push there. Frozen Delivery, Keylon Burst, pass the turn. Okay, we're behind on cards. There's the Foundry mechanic, okay. They did stop us from double advancing. Took 2 1-drops to make it happen. This is to, when you play a permanent, return a card from reserve to your hand. Oh. Is this the kind of situation where we'd like to skip putting something in mana? So we can play the Repotter Otter and the Sneezer Shroom. The Otter letting us put the Caregiver into reserve to give something anchored. I think we do that. I doubt our opponent is going to be pushing ahead with the Keylon Burst here. Yeah, they definitely won't be. They want to have two landmarks in play before they use that. I'll play a Sneezer Shroom out, try and make it a little bit harder for them to advance. Okay, they put the Brass Bug on the companion side, so they likely have something to play out of hand. Are they just hoping that we don't? The sad business is that our Otter does not stop them from advancing with the Foundry mechanic. So I could pay 2 to resupply with the mechanical training, but then they'd have to get rid of something. So I'm expecting to see, yeah, the Foundry mechanic come out. What we'll do, we'll use the support ability on the what are the odds? Oh no, our opponent will be advancing, so they'll go into blue, so at least defensively the Otter is very strong in this position. We don't know what we're moving into, if it is just green, we're screwed, but we know it's not because of the green is revealed on the right hand side there. Sorry, I pointed at my screen. I realized you guys can't see that. I'm gonna have to get rid of a bunch of stuff, which we like to see. That is good for us. Mono brown for us and mono blue for our opponent is about as good as we could ask for this otter. Didn't have high hopes for this card. I don't ever like giving our opponent more options. But it did sort of just save our bacon a little bit there, which is nice. And we're ahead on stats, which is where we want to be, because as I mentioned early on in the game, our opponent being in brown means that they just have a lot less stats to play with. A lot more stats to play with, sorry. Okay, we'll be able to keep one thing around here. We've got the Dracana and the Aloe Vera, so we've got to put something in reserve. What do we want to see? The Aloe Vera is a lot more aggressive, which is kind of what we want to push our tempo. We could sacrifice tempo now for tempo later with the Dracana. Oh, that's a choice. I have a small inkling that we'd be giving up a double advance here to keep the Dracana around, and I don't really want to do that. We could get rid of it. We could potentially pass on the meditation training. Play the Aloe Vera out next turn. I don't think we can afford to fall that far behind in mana, unfortunately. Might have been a spot for it. We'll have to see what our opponent wants to get done. We'll play the Aloe Vera on this side. Will our opponent use the Keylon Burst? No point in returning it back to hand if they play a landmark, or a permanent, sorry. Fair enough. I assume they're going to play it then. That will give them an advance here. So I think I'm going to cast Meditation Training targeting the Sneezer Shroom here. So if they Keylon Burst, targeting the Shroom, yeah, if they Keylon Burst targeting the Shroom, put 2 extra power over on this side, we'll still get to advance with the Aloe Vera, but if they get rid of the Aloe Vera, we obviously keep our Shroom around. So the Keylon Burst that our opponent just put in their hand, it has fleeting, so it's going to be going to the discard pile, whether they play it from reserve or hand. Obviously it was kind of free to do because they didn't have anything else to do with it. So we've put our opponent in a small spot here. They make their brass bugs, so they advance, but we also advance. That's something we are not too unhappy with. But what we are unhappy with is having to put 2 cards into discard. Where are we right now? I think we'll get rid of the otter. We don't want to give our opponent more options. I think we'll get rid of the meditation training. I think that's just the least valuable card. I could argue against keeping the sneezer shroom as well, but we're justified because we've got the meditation training here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, we'll get rid of the Mooner Druid. Would have been good to have in hand if we'd kept the otter. Little cute boy as he was. I'm expecting our opponent to put the brass bag in the hero side. Foundry Armourer. I'm scared about removal out of our opponent. But they also might have access to Tinkerbell. We haven't seen any sabotage here. I think we'll make him have it though. We'll put the Sneezer Shroom on this side as a small target. Now they've got to contest over here a little bit if they want to stop us from advancing. Frozen Delivery. Alright. How many stats is this out of our opponent? I've got a 2/2/2 plus 1, so 3/3/3, or, you know, so there's 4 here, 6. What is our best option? We've kind of shoehorned ourselves into playing the aloe vera on this side, which our opponent can knowingly contest, unfortunately. Play the Axiom Salvager. We'll do the only thing we can do here, play the meditation training, targeting our aloe vera, so at least we get a resupply, because they have to contest on that side. We give up a double advance. At least we have access to our Arjun and Spike anchor just here. I suppose we're hoping to see one of our uniques. The Yeti's going to be really good here. Jack Frost would be good for sending this thing to the bin. We got neither. Our opponent can't really afford to play Gibble, for what it's worth. And they concede. Alright, didn't have it. There you go. That was pretty good. I enjoyed that one. That was fun. There you go, a 2-1 record with a deck we sort of just built right off the cuff. Let's go back into the deck tech and see what it is that we can do better for next time. Thanks for playing. Alright. Thankfully our opponent didn't know that our hand was a little bit cheeks there. Got away with it. Successful heist, I would say. Alright, GG's. See you in a second. And there we go. We've got a 2-1 record with Spike Feeders, the Arjun and Spike deck that we built on camera for you all. How did we go?
Um, there are a lot of interesting little synergies in this deck. Obviously, that's what we were sort of pushing towards when we built it. Stuff like the Repotter Otter with a Moona Caregiver in hand is really cool. Bit of redundancy with the Moona Druids there as well. Really enjoyed seeing that come out. The Dracanas seem like a really good early game card, but one of the things I wasn't really thinking about, and this goes for the Snoozer Shrooms as well, or Sneezer Shrooms, is that them gaining anchored when you play them means that they don't actually benefit from Arjun and Spike's ability at all. Um, Aloe Vera was obviously very good if we had that in effect. Sort of kept our hand open, but being a 3-drop is a little bit awkward in that spot. Inari, very good from reserve because it only costs the 2 and it stays around to draw some extra cards. We saw a lot of Eclipse go to the mana zone as well, considering we've only got 2 of them, but I think that's because we drew them early on. Those cards really pop off in the longer the game goes on because you're more likely to hit something out. Obviously, we had the boosties to be gained from our Yeti and our Liaison. This Capelia, I feel, underperformed. The only bit that we were super interested in was this from hand ability, so giving something anchored when you play her seemed a lot more important than either her stats, which are fairly abysmal for what you pay for them, or the reserve ability. So we'll look at either upgrading or swapping her out for something else that we've got. Persephone as a 2-of was nice. I don't think you want to see that all the time, but keeping her around when your opponents are contesting in the other sides can be a bit of a backbreaker. But overall, I really like it. I think if I were to make some changes to the deck, I would look at swapping out something for the Dracana. Just play to the board a little bit more, but this felt very slow, and we would have to give up, say, either 1 lane or 2 whenever we played it. Didn't get to see it on turn 1, which is where it can really pop off. So I think that's probably a little bit too much stress on the deck. For what I would change it in for, I'd be looking at things that are cheaper. If you look at our hand cost breakdown over on the right hand side here, 22 3-drops is a lot. 8 1-drops, 7 2-drops. I'd probably be looking at filling up those a little bit further with the Dracana rare slots that we have, just to even out that curve and make it so we can potentially play some more 2-card hands on turn 1, or get a little bit of extra value out of our Yetis and our Liaison abilities once we're in the mid to late game. So yeah, just it doesn't suit this deck the best, but it is obviously just a general good stuff card in green, so I'm glad we tried it. Inari was really cool. Obviously not great if we can't give it anchored in some way, but we'll keep trying with that one. Aloe Vera was very good just for the stats. We've seen that in our Lyra games. Just having something, that can advance even if it doesn't stop your opponent from advancing can be quite good. Yeah, not too fussed with that one. Floral Tent and Harvests. I think you can mix and match the number you have of those in the deck. Obviously, Resupply is really good. I was a little bit worried about Repotter Otter, like I said, giving our opponent something to do with the cards in their hand is always a little bit of a squeaky bum moment. So we could look at swapping that out for some other form of card advantage, but putting something into hand was definitely from hand into reserve was very vital there in order to win us an expedition. Yeah, you kind of don't want to be hitting that if you don't have the druid or the caregiver in hand though. We could look at upgrading the meditation training to the rare version. Giving something a boost would be good with the Eclut from hand, or finding another way to get anchored from the reserve as well. Alrighty, nice one. That was pretty easy. Really enjoyed having it, and obviously building out another deck for the future. This one will definitely see returns. So yeah, sorry, a little sick. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed playing it. I'll see you next week. Have a good one. Love your work.